All right, joining us now with more on yesterday's White House. Well, dinner, music, meeting, Kid Rock. What a cool idea. How did you pull this off? How did you make that happen? And this is one of those moments I would have loved to have been a fly on that wall.
Yeah, I heard that from a lot of people. They wanted to be flies on the wall. It started for me doing Bill's show and doing his podcast last year and again this year. And you know, they actually have things in common. Him and Trump, as hard as they've been on each other, and Bill's been more than a little unkind to the president over the years. And I've kind of friendly with them both, and I said, man, what if you could sit down and meet him and break bread? That's one thing I've found in life is, nothing gets solved and this country's so divided. I'm like, what if we could just have some laughs, talk about some things we agree on, and maybe just try to set an example for the reasonable people of this country that, it's okay to disagree on things, and, we can talk a little smack about each other, but at the end of the day, we're all on the same team.
Well, we're on the same team. We live in the greatest country on earth, fair enough. But he's been a hard, harsh critic of President Trump. So you asked the president about it, and what was his first reaction?
He called me a couple times. He's like, Bob, what the hell have you got me into? I'm like,
that's funny.
I talked to I said, Mr. President, I've talked to Bill. It was very nerve-wracking for me leading up to it, because I'm like, what if this goes terrible and things go sideways? It ruins a lot of my credibility with someone I consider a dear friend, the president. But my heart was totally 100% pure going into this, just trying to do the right thing. And Bill totally got it. Bill's like, Bob, I'm not going to sabotage something that could potentially bring us and maybe this country closer together. I was like, Mr. President, he totally gets it. And these guys, my mind was blown. That's all I can say. It's just how well they got along. We talked about things we had in common. The president, gave us a great tour of the White House again, even the private residence. It was just, and then he even called me later that night. Me and Dana went out after to, smoke a cigar and just catch up. And it must have been closer to midnight. The president called me, and he thought it went great. So did I. I go, that was incredible.
So
I don't know.
Bring us all in that room, though. I mean, you talked about things that maybe they did agree on. I would assume borders, wokeism, things like that. Was there any disagreement at any point? What was Maher's reaction walking in there? My understanding is this was his first time, and he's donated a fortune to Democrats. He never got invited by any Democrat to the White House?
I couldn't believe that when he said that he'd never been invited to the White House. And not only are we in the White House having dinner, but then the president's like, would you like to see the private residence? I'm like, oh, again? Yes. And Bill's like, I've never even been here. And it just blew my mind, going up there. And he's such a gracious host. You know how he is. He's so fun to be around. He's so pleasant, so funny, so smart, just a guy's guy. And, and all of us there are sticks and stones guys. So, jokes, we don't care about that. Like, a lot of these snowflakes over the years have been, you say one thing and they're all butt sore about it. Like, we don't care about that. But, man, it was incredible just watching them be cordial. Dana was sitting there. Dana's like, man, you did a great thing, Bob. this is a great thing. And it really made me feel good, It made me feel proud to just... I've been a very polarizing figure in my own right. I get that. So just trying to do something good, and bring people together.
You've been polarizing? No way. I don't believe that for 1 second. All right. So Bill's going to go on his show. And what do you think, based on being there, he's going to say?
I think he's going to say nice things about the president. He's not going to have a MAGA hat on, and he's probably not going to vote Republican anytime.
Is he going to have his lifetime? Will you have your outfit on? Your Evil Knievel, patriotic outfit. Oh, here's a fun story. So I was in the Oval Office with that outfit on, and so I brought a change of clothes for dinner. That thing was very hot, so I was changing clothes. But Dana told me, he goes, Bob, you missed it. When Bill Maher walked into the Oval Office, he said he looked pretty nervous, this, that, and the other. And, the president said something to him real nice, and Bill's like, I need a drink. And the president's like, get him a drink. What do you want? He said, I want a margarita. And the president had his people grab a margarita, and I grabbed a beer, and, man, we had a great time. All right, so go back to my question, though, and I interrupted you. He goes on his show. Is he going to say, I really like this guy? We had a really good conversation. We had a meeting of the minds. Were there any points that they disagreed? What is he going to say?
I believe he is going to go on his show and say nice things. I think he's going to say that we still don't agree politically. No, it really freaks out Bill when people are talking about a third term, this, that, and the other. He brought that up, and the president, they talked about it a little bit. That was something I would consider private. I feel uncomfortable sharing that. If the president wanted to, he could, but we basically stuck to things that we agreed on, and they both have extremely deep knowledge of American history. Both very smart guys, and very reasonable people. Even though they've had this, pretty harsh relationship, it was a cool. I'm like, if they can do it, maybe that family member you have with that you disagree with, that's divided you politically, or that someone is social standing with a neighbor or somebody. Maybe you can go back and be like, hey man, let's have dinner and talk about what we do have in common.
Well, I think it's a great thing that you did on every level. What was maybe a moment that stood out, something that you feel free to share, where maybe like Maher's reaction or something? I mean, you said he was nervous when he came in. He had the drink that hopefully settled him down a little bit. I'm not sure if he's allowed to smoke weed in the White House. I know he talks a lot about that, although some people have, according to reports. But in all seriousness, was there a moment where you saw a connection that you didn't expect? Oh, the whole dinner. The whole dinner, the tour around the White House. It was, the president was so engaged with Bill. Usually me and Dana are very good friends with him. So, when we're in the room, he's usually pretty engaged with us. And he was so engaged with Bill the whole dinner. Me and Dana just kind of sat back and enjoyed the show. And our minds were both blown that, how gracious the president was to have him there, number one. That's a big deal to have him there, to reach out and say, to let me reach out and say, hey, can I bring this guy to dinner? And he's like, yeah, let's try it. Let's try it. And he was just engaged with him the whole time. There was nothing negative. And Bill was really funny, too. He loosened up. He was great. He had some funny jokes. It just couldn't have gone better. I was really happy, very surprised, but... If you keep this up, you might be the next, Middle East and European envoy to bring peace. Or maybe you can bring in the ladies of The View. That might be a fun moment, too. That would be pretty entertaining for sure. Can you imagine that? I don't think they would be able to contain themselves. I really don't. They'd lose it in front of them. Great thing that you did. I'm glad it worked out. Good for Bill for going. It'll be interesting to hear his comments. Kid Rock, always good to see you. And that outfit was kick-ass. Loved it. Great job. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.